Hi, this is The Greatest Story Ever Played. I'm Dan, and I'm joined by Morgan to talk about Lake. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. We have this trend going where I only join the podcast for games about lakes. The last one I was here on was the Alan Wake podcast.
Yeah, funny that now instead of a haunted lake, it's something more peaceful and nice for this one. So fun to have the positive trend this way, I guess.
Lighter than expected.
Yeah, that too. So, I guess with that, we'll just dive into Lake itself. A description I've got for the game is this. It says, it's 1986. Meredith Weiss takes a break from her career in the big city to deliver mail in her hometown. How will she experience 2 weeks in beautiful Providence Oaks with its iconic lake and quirky community? And what will she do next? It's up to you. A little background on the game. It's developed by a studio called Gamius, and the games that they have are all one-word titles, like Turmoil, Lines, and Bryquid. I've never played any of those, but I think they're an indie studio in Europe somewhere. So, I don't know. Cool that Lake seems to be maybe their first one kind of getting onto the mainstream a little more. So, kind of cool. Also, as of recording this right now, this is on Game Pass. So, if you have Game Pass, it's available to you. You can go play it.
Yeah, that was going to be one thing that I was going to say when you said that this is their first mainstream title. I was actually really surprised. I think you were too. That this got released on the Xbox, the Series X and the S, and all of the next gen consoles. While I felt like it could have probably been on the previous gen. But
yeah. So
I think being a next gen release helps it kind of break out into the mainstream a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And I think being on Game Pass just available for anyone who has that while you're scrolling games and trying to find something to play, perhaps you'll see this and say, sure, I'll check that out. So that's a little about the game itself. Before we dive into kind of deeper spoilers of sorts for this game, we wanted to share some non-spoiler thoughts, kind of give you an idea as, is this a game I'd want to play, that sort of stuff. So, I think first thing about this is this game is exactly what it offers to be. I remember seeing the trailer when it dropped, and it's Providence Oaks, you deliver mail in your hometown and all this stuff. And when I saw that trailer, I was like, that's a Dan game. I want to play this. And that very much so was met. So if you watch this trailer and you think, I want to play this game, you will most certainly like it. If you watch the trailer, on the other hand, and you think, I don't want to play that, I imagine you will not want to. The trailer, I think, very much so reflects what it is. It sells itself correctly.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. There's, not in a bad way, but there's no, big, deep craziness to it. It's just a slice of life. It's just a super relaxing and kind of just an emotional story game.
Yeah, exactly. Its features, I think, is that you get to be in the 80s in a lake town and you meet people and have conversations, and that's sort of where your enjoyment is of, cool, I like this environment, it's fun being here, whatever, that kind of thing, rather than I don't know, some big thing happening or
right.
Whatever. So, yeah, I think that's what you're getting into. If that's what you want, you'll probably like it. Another thing in this game that I liked was I appreciated that there was some fast travel / autopilot options. So you've got, as said, there's a town on the lake, and with it there's various parts of the lake where it's this building's over here or this house is here. And you can either fast travel or just click auto and the driving will happen itself. And I appreciated that those were available because I think I could feeling tedious if you had to drive from one end of the lake to the other and you had to experience it every day. Right. Because the way the game is set up is you just go through this 2-week period working as a mail lady and going through and doing your job. And so I think they did a good job of taking some of the monotony of work, like real work has, out of it and allowing some of these game features to come in.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I would say if you haven't played the game yet, a piece of advice I would give to you would be to try and really get in Meredith's head and make the decisions how you feel like she would make them, because those are the parts where I found the most enjoyable. Trying to like set the game mechanics and like the consequences aside, and just think like, what would I do if I was a 40-year-old woman who's a mail carrier who left her coding job?
Yep.
Yeah.
I thought so too, and that was something for us when we played this. Was our debate at different points? We'd come to a thing and we're like, okay, what do we think we should do?
Yeah.
And then it would be like, okay, well, what do you think Meredith should do? And that made this kind of a fun way to play this. Because a lot of it was, okay, cool, I run the mail carrier route for the day, then the next day you do it or whatever. But those kind of moments in between of, okay, what are we going to do? Who we're going to talk to? How would she respond in this? Like, that was fun to kind of sort out.
Yeah. And I think those conversations got pretty meta at some points where we're like, well, what if this, then this? We kind of like had to logic our way through the decision, and then it ended up just like not even really being what we thought, and those moments were pretty funny to look back on.
They are.
Yeah. Just, I don't know, something to note is Dan and I both played this together. So we just take turns handing off the controller back and forth, and for our playthrough, it was one playthrough, and we landed on the same decision. So yeah,
that's true, right? There are some variations in the recap that we'll like go through in a minute. There are some variations you will have in your playthrough compared to us. Ours are just the same since we played it together, so we don't have variation from each other.
Right.
That's a good note. That's really all the non-spoiler stuff I have. Do you have anything else you'd want to mention before we go into them?
That's it. Let's get on into it.
Cool. Okay. So, now on to kind of our recap. Spoiler City coming here. So, again, if you want to play this, I would go play it first. Otherwise, we will spoil kind of your main important details that come out through this. So, okay. Game begins, and you're getting a ride from your coworker Frank, who's another mail carrier in this town, and he tells you kind of about the job as your like tutorial almost, or in pre-tutorial. You're going to deliver letters and packages. So with letters, you just put it in the mailbox. With a package, you actually have to go up to the door, ring the doorbell, and either the person will answer and you'll give them the package, or you'll like set it on the ground if they don't answer. And your kind of setup for the game is you work during the day, and then you have an activity option at night. So you do your work day, you deliver, I think each day you have, 8-ish things. You might have 2 packages and 6 letters, or, some combo of that. So you go and do your route, and then once you're done with your route, you'll have an option. So it might be, I'm going to read a book. I'm going to watch TV. Maybe someone initiated hanging out with you and you do that. Maybe you have other work you want to do. That's sort of your sequence of how the game works. Sometimes you'll receive phone calls while you're at home after work from your parents who are out of town. Your dad is the mail carrier typically, but him and your mom went on a vacation to Florida, and you're filling in for him for 2 weeks. So he's on his vacation, and for some reason, the Postal Service is allowing his daughter to fill in. They're like, sure, who cares? You don't work here, but...
This federal job now that
right.
You haven't been background checked for, but hey.
Yeah, but you're here. It's Providence Oaks. It doesn't matter. Yeah, for some reason...
It's the 80s.
Yeah, that's true. It does sort of feel like it's the 80s. There's no rules. But sometimes you'll get phone calls from them, or you'll get phone calls from Steve, your boss in the big city. As Morgan mentioned in the beginning, you work as like a coder for this calendar software, basically. And your boss from your... Yeah, at it. Yeah, your boss will like hit you up from time to time to tell you things about what's going on while you're on vacation to fill in for your dad while he's on vacation doing his job. That's sort of your like big picture what life looks like sort of thing of day to day. This kind of thing can encompass your interactions.
Yeah, and the game really starts to draw the distinction of kind of like what you value in life, and I feel like it really just kind of set itself up to make you think. Do you value career and ambition and just making top dollar, or do you value like relationships and just finding your place within a community kind of thing?
Mm-hmm.
So that's like the backdrop of the start of this game, and I feel like it just continues those themes as we go.
Yep. That really sets it well as kind of what do you care about.
Yeah.
So the way the game is played, I guess. Well, I'll say how the game's played, and then we'll talk about how it went for us, I guess. So the way the game is played, right, too, within that, is you go through each day. So you work Monday, you have your activity after work, you work Tuesday, on and on and on. And then you have the weekend, and that's slightly different. And then the next week you work your week again, kind of thing. So rather than kind of hitting up a day-by-day cycle as to what you do and who you speak to, I think it'd be easier to kind of just break it in the week 1 versus week 2 and kind of hit up what happened with this character that week. Because through this, I think a big thing that Lake brings is there are characters in the community and how you interact with them and the relationships you end up having with them, that sort of stuff, is really your, main thing in this. And so,
Right.
Just like in real life, sometimes it's stopping by this person's store and you talk to them for 2 minutes and it's inconsequential. But over the course of the week, you might make some headway there. There might be some notable relationship things happening there. So that's sort of how it looks. So going into your people itself that you meet, the first person you meet on your route, I believe, is the cat lady named Mildred Jenkins. She is every bit the cat lady that you would imagine. I think you see her briefly in the trailer, and she's exactly what you would expect. She ends up having you take her cat to the fisherman, a guy named Bert, because I think she was feeding her cat cupcakes. And he was sick.
Which in this town, the fisherman is also the veterinarian.
Oh, right. Yeah. Apparently, it's like you're at the water, you're around animals.
If he can take care of a fish, he can take care of a cat.
Yeah, that seems to be the logic. And so you go do that, and you're like, all right, cool, I'll help you out. And this also gives you an intro to you're the mail carrier, but also you're sort of a courier at times for
Right.
just. It's a small town. People will give you shit, and you're like, hey, I know you're going around the lake. Could you take this over here? And it just becomes sort of a thing, which I feel like fits. That is probably what an 80s small town could be like. You're like, well, I was just going to be at home, but I know you're going over to that side of the lake. Could you drop this off?
Right.
It's kind of funny. Another guy that you meet is Jack. He is a farmer / DJ. So he runs the local radio station, which is hilarious. He's like my favorite occupation in the town because it's so funny.
Yeah.
But he gives you an unmarked envelope to give to Frank and is like, hey, could you give this to him? And you have a moment where you can like choose to be like, oh, you need a stamp on it, or no, or yes. And I think for us, it was like day 1 or 2, and we're like, sure, I don't know. Like,
yeah, we're already going over there. Like you said, might as well just drop it off.
Might as well drop it off.
That's actually exactly what I said. I was like, well, we have to go back to the post office to drop off the car anyway. Like,
right.
Might as well.
Yeah. It was like, cool. You might as well. So you have that happen. Another thing you do that's significant is you deliver mail to Kay Evans. And it's pretty awkward when you deliver mail to her because you two were once best friends. When you grew up in Providence Spring, you and her were super close, did high school together, dreamed of being lifelong friends. But
you might say, Houston, we have a problem.
Yes. But you haven't spoken in a long time now. It seems that basically when you moved out of town, you kind of left everyone behind, and is a bit of a bummer. And so your kind of reconnection is pretty awkward. She doesn't really want to talk to you, and you're kind of like, oh, maybe I was shitty. And you kind of realize that. Later on in the week, you go visit the diner that she works at, which her aunt and uncle used to run. Now it's just her aunt because her uncle's died.
Yeah.
And
that was interesting. She doesn't exactly go out and say it, at least in our playthrough. There possibly would have been an option to find out that her uncle died. I think there was the option to say, like, well, what happened to, what was it, Stevie's Diner or whatever her uncle's name was. It was like his diner initially. And there was an option to ask, like, why the name changed. Maybe she would have told you that her uncle died at that point. But, maybe she felt like that you were just too cold to tell about, like, this loss of a loved one.
And in this, too, when we're talking to her at the diner, there's a point where you could either address it and you're like, hey, things seem weird, or you could let it slide. And I wanted to let it slide, but you convinced me that we should address it, and that was totally the right move.
Well, I had a feeling that something like that happened with the name change, and, like, she seemed kind of sad about it, and I'm in, like, the grief support group work, so I was like, let's go for this and see, kind of thing. Yeah,
and you were totally right. Instead, that kind of allowed that to open up, hey, like, I'm really sad that we stopped talking about this. Yeah. But it allows you to rekindle your friendship, which was cool. Like, I think if we would have done what I wanted, our friendship would have probably stayed awkward through the game.
Right.
But instead, with going forward and addressing it, was okay, cool. Let's, like, restart now. Like, that did suck, but let's move forward. And that was good. Also, this week, you get a part where you get to go hiking together. So, like, reconnecting with old friends, super nice.
I think that interaction between us and Kay was what really just, like, started to set this game apart for me as, like, man, I actually care about these characters and, like, want to really, like, immerse myself in, like, Meredith's psyche and, like, figure out how she would do things. I left that interaction and I was like, we made a difference.
I felt the same way. That was definitely a key part where I was bought more in. I think before that I was like, I'm interested, I like this, but that, like, reconnection with our friend, I was like, okay, I want to keep this friendship going. And so when we went hiking later that week, that was cool, and things that will happen later, again, cool, but it was nice that it felt like it really, like, started right there. Right. Another character we meet is Angie Eastman. She runs the video store. And you can kind of develop a relationship with her. She's one of your romance options as well. And her video store is full of fake video titles, which are funny.
Which we love.
Yeah, they were great. I wish I could remember some offhand right now, but they're not.
I can only remember the names of the movies that they actually reference.
Right, like
Back to the Future.
And Jaws,
Ghostbusters, Terminator.
There are some where if you walk around the video store, there's maybe like 10 or 12 videos, and they're covers that some of which you'd recognize, or you'd recognize the name as like a fake version of a real movie.
Yeah.
Super fun. But you talk to her, and she suggests a movie that you could watch, and will give you a tape of it. You can go and watch that on one of your times after work and, like, build your bond that way of, hey, I watched this movie, and, like, I really thought it was cool, whatever. There's a part where she initiates hanging out with you and wants to tell you about a big idea. And her idea is she's going to give you a portable VCR and 2 videos to go and take to local residents around the town to get them to watch a movie for free, basically, because she's trying to drum up business. And so I think she's wanting to provide, hey, movies could be easy and fun for you. Here's a way to do it, sort of thing. And so you're kind of doing, I think, again, helping out around the town. Like, you're just, you're going to be on your mail route. Well, when you see this person, give them this and say, hey, Angie wanted you to have a free movie. One of these might be for you.
Right.
Kind of thing. Check this out. You do that. Also, you have some, like, flirting going on here where it's like, okay, this isn't just we're both newer-ish in town. Like, you have more of that going.
She's very forward.
Yeah, she was forward for sure. So the first person you take the VCR to is Lori. She's like a 16-year-old mechanic, aspiring mechanic. Her dad's like the town mechanic, but she's like one of those kids who like grew up with tools and is really good at it, kind of thing.
And I have a feeling that she's the one who nicknamed the mail van Goose.
I think you're right.
Because she then names the RV later. Well, you have a choice what to name it, but we named it the Sea Turtle, right?
Yeah, because that's what she suggested.
Right.
Yeah, she so you talk to her, you give her a movie. Once she's done with it, you go to Bert the fisherman. You do the same thing. Mm-hmm. After you've done both of these, near the end of the week, you go to Angie to return the stuff, and you're like, hey, they each watched the movie. And Angie's pretty short with you. And it's weird because before this moment, she's been like, she's super outgoing, super peppy, flirting pretty hard. And then you come in and she just is kind of shitty to you. And you're like, what the hell? Like, we were vibing. Also, I took your movies all around the fucking lake. Kind of feel. But she then explains that the store is not doing well, that, you know, I came out here, you know, it was my dream to open a video store, and people around here don't really like videos. I thought that, like, being on a small town on a lake, like, people would want to watch videos to have something, like, more to do, and it's really not that way. And my bills are mounting up, I'm concerned, you know, all of that. So you end up leaving that interaction with her, like, not even quite apologizing, but, like, mildly explaining. And you're like, all right, that was weird. Like, maybe we're not into each other. Like, but then the next day she hits you up and is like, hey, something cool that happens for me being, like, the person who runs the video store is in the big city nearby, I get free movie passes once a month. And you did all this for me. I want to take you to the movies. Let's do this. You can talk, like, is it a date or not? You can, like, you know, play those vibes for sure. And you get to go see a movie together. And you get the option of 3 movies. I forget which they were and what we chose either.
I think we picked...
I feel like we picked something fun. That... Fuck. I wish I remembered now.
I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah. Oh, well.
You did skip over the interaction with Tori that we could have had, though, the mechanic. When we get there and we pick up the Love Bug movie, she wasn't super thrilled about that.
Right.
She's like, this is kind of childish. She's like, and then you have Nightmare on Elm Street. Is that the one?
Yeah,
and
that's right.
She's like, well, my parents won't let me see that movie. And then we had the option to invite her over to come hang out with us and watch that movie. And I think I was all like gung-ho, like, yeah, let's hang out with this teenage mechanic.
Yeah.
And I think you were a little more like, what were your thoughts on that?
You're right, yeah. I said no because I was like, would it be weird if an adult initiates hanging out with, like, a teenager to watch a movie? Like, to me, I was like, that sounds weird. But I know in the game it wasn't supposed to be weird. Because she talked about, like, oh, my parents don't want me to watch this. And I felt weird about being like, well, come watch it at my house. Like, that sounds fucking weird. But I think in the game...
I think we're taking 2021, you know, into the 80s where it's not that weird.
No, exactly. That's totally what that was. And I think, too, like, even if the dialogue was slightly different, like, if she would have said something like, my parents wouldn't want me to watch that, I won't want to be like, well, I could sneak you around your parents. Like, that feels weird. But I feel like if it was like, well, I'd be, like, scared to watch that by myself and my parents won't watch it with me.
Yeah.
Well, I'd watch it with you. I feel like I could feel better about that. Or like, oh, let's make it an event. Let's invite these other people. But instead it just... I just interpreted it in, like, this makes me feel weird way.
Right.
As opposed to, like you said, I bet it would have been totally fun and cool. And this was the first time we said no to, like, expanding a friendship, an extra hangout with people. I think the rest of the game we did a good job of saying yes.
I think we kind of learned our lesson a little bit.
Yeah, because this one basically...
We did have an interesting one later, which we'll talk about.
Yeah, because this one basically closed a door. And in retrospect, I definitely wish we didn't close it, but I think it was early enough in the game that I wasn't sure if we'd be getting into something where it could get weird.
You weren't. I wasn't sure the scope of the game either. Of like, is this really like a super chill, relaxing game, or is this like a game where stuff can go wrong? You know,
right
at that point.
Yeah, because I feel like it took me till, I don't know, maybe halfway through the game before I was like, okay, it's really just chill. There isn't something like fucked up that's going to come out of nowhere and be like, oh my god, you did this thing, go into jail, or you know, whatever. Like, and so I felt like really cautious because I'm like, all right, who's going to try to fuck us over? And instead that never came. That wasn't a thing. But I wasn't sure because I was like, is it just, it seems nice, but secretly it's less nice. Instead it's just nice.
So we had the interaction with Tori where we chose not to sneak her over to our house.
Yep.
And then I remember when we were delivering the VHS tapes to Robert, right?
Or Bert.
Not Robert, Bert.
The fisherman, yeah.
The fisherman. And we were like debating really hard on like which tape to give him, and we gave him the war tape because he was like an ex-Navy SEAL or a veteran or something.
Yeah.
And afterwards he said he didn't like the tape, and I can't help but wonder, like, what if we gave him one where he was like, oh man, that's awesome. Like, would that have helped Angie's record or her video store like be able to kind of stick around? I think that's just wishful thinking at this point. Like, I don't think that we could have really corrected the course of her video store sticking around. But.
I agree. And I think that we were worried, like, I think the other one was Jaws. So it was Jaws and Dirty Dozen.
Yeah.
And so,
like, what if we scare the guy and he doesn't want to fish anymore?
Right. I was like, does he have water?
Or what if he has, like, PTSD from the war and we're, like, giving him something that'll scare him?
Right.
Either way, it's pretty terrifying possibilities.
That's what I was worried with too. I was like, are we giving him his current job related PTSD, or he was in the military PTSD? And I think we were like, let's do Dirty Dozen. That's like a classic. He'll probably think it's cool. Instead, he was like, meh.
Because Jaws was super scary for people back then.
Right, yeah.
People like stopped going to the beach, and it was like really a phenomenon.
Right, yeah. That made like a thing versus I feel like Dirty Dozen people were probably like, yeah, this is cool.
Right.
So we went that route, but he wasn't for it. He didn't care. But yeah, ultimately though, okay, we went through our trial with Angie. Then we have this kind of date to the movies of sorts. A date, not a date, I would say, because we didn't like go full on in calling it a date, but we didn't go not calling it a date either.
From my point of view, I thought she was coming on a little too strong, and I was like, just kind of trying to like play things a little more cool.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you know, she was very flirty, like babe immediately, and I was like, I don't know if we're there yet.
Right, and two, like any games with romance options, we're trying to hold out on choosing.
Right.
For as long as we could, so that we could decide kind of, all right, where do we really want to go? So. Right. You know, this is pretty early, and we're like, we don't want to commit, you know, week one, we know there's another week. Like, what if our other romance option has things we're for sure into? But, you know, movies go good. We're, like, talking on the car ride home. Super great. Like, all of it's really vibing. You can tell Meredith's vibing with her. Like, the character's vibing.
Right.
It's all around good. She gets to her house.
I was vibing?
Yeah, I was vibing. I was all about it, too. And we get to the house, and she drops us off, and it's kind of like, hey, should we, like, have tea inside or something like that? And unfortunately for us, so Steve, our boss, has called us several times this week asking us to work.
Oh, yeah.
And we said yes, we would do it. And then one day we decided not to do it because we wanted to see a thing, and all of that happened. And so we were like, well, we should probably say no so we actually do that work, because...
Right.
We didn't want to like lose our job while we're on vacation in case we didn't want to stay here.
Right.
You know. So Angie's kind of like, hey, like maybe we should go in, and we ended up deciding, no, let's like.
We should do work.
We've got some work we've got to do.
It was like the super important contract that needed looked over. And...
Yeah, and we skipped it for a day or two, so we didn't want to like totally blow it off.
Finally do it.
Yeah. And so our date ends here. I from what I've watched online, it seems like you can kiss here. I don't know if you go inside, but you don't get to see what happens if more happens, you see them kiss in the car, and then it kind of skips to the next day. Unfortunately for us, though, we went inside, and we didn't see us do work, and it just went to the next day. So instead, we blocked ourselves. We didn't have our date happen all the way, and we didn't do our work anyway. So we fucked up.
I do wish that it was a little more clear about what you have to give up to do certain things, like saying yes to people to hang out means you might not get to work later that night, things like that. So we said no to Angie because we thought we'd be able to work, and then we didn't get to.
Yeah, that was something that was unclear. It seems like now looking back, basically you have one thing you can do after work that you choose. Who
can't watch a half hour of TV and then go to work. I mean, I guess I'm feeling that way, and I'm 30 right now. So she's 40, so I'd probably, only do one thing also.
That's fair. Yeah. So unfortunately, you, that didn't go well. Now on to our last person that we really meet this first week. That's notable is Robert Harris. He is lumberjacky kind of guy. He lives out kind of into the woods a little bit and is a lumberjack. He looks like one, but he also that is his work.
That occupation.
Yep. And you vibe with him pretty early on as well. You drop the mail off. He's chatty right away. He talks to you about whatever the mail is. He'll just open it with you there and wants to dialogue. Pretty friendly. Early on, he ends up inviting you to go to the diner to talk about business, and you talk with him for a little bit, and there's sort of a moment where talking gets sort of weird, and he just looks off into the distance, and you're like, oh, did your wife die? And so this is your first time trying to experience love again. That's what it sort of feels like. And we were like, oh, that was a little weird. I kind of like him, but this is bizarre.
Right. Yeah.
So he's, I would say at this point, more intrigue than anything else, because you actually don't, he's nice, but you don't know that much about him. Also, Mo, who is the diner owner.
Kay's aunt.
Kay's aunt, who runs the diner. She, implies you two getting together a bunch when you're at the diner. Ooh.
Like a forced matchmaking kind of thing.
Yeah, ooh, look at this date. Yeah. Two great young people in Providence Oaks finding each other. She presses that real hard and really continues that trend through the rest of the game of, ooh, two young hot people who are single and don't have responsibilities. What if you were younger and hot together? That's totally her vibe about it. I think that's week one, largely.
Well, one thing about Robert I liked was I felt like that's where the game kind of pulled in the theme of do you care about making all the money and this big career and ambition, or do you care about people and communities? And I think it pulled in nature here because he is trying to protect this piece of land or forest that would get turned into apartments. And that's where she starts the dialogue with him, right? That's what they meet at the diner about.
Yeah.
And she kind of talks him through this plan that he has for and she looks over his documents, right?
Right.
To try and write a petition to keep this stretch of forest from getting developed into apartment complexes.
That's right. That's what gets it started right away, is that he wants to prevent that. And so you're like, oh, maybe we could talk through this. And that sort of starts your bond. No, that's good. Good call. Then you have the weekend. That goes a little different than your week. I think it's just you have activity options.
So we hang out with Kay.
That's when the hike was. Yeah.
The tower.
Yeah, that was cool. Maybe other things, but yeah, it's different from your normal work, delivering your 8 parcels each day or whatever kind of thing. So now on to week 2. I would say this is where you're, again, our kind of natural break. Week 2, one big thing that happens is you get confronted by Walter Morgan. He's a postal service higher up. And he's like, what do you know about Frank and gambling on baseball games? And you're like, oh shit, I was accidentally part of things. Because you kind of put together, oh, I gave a envelope of money.
Flashback to Bert, right?
Yeah, or Jack.
Jack.
The farmer DJ.
Jack the farmer DJ.
Yeah. That, oh shit, he gave me an envelope of money.
The unmarked envelope that we're just casually like, yeah, we're going back to the post office anyway to return the truck. Like,
right.
We can take this unstamped envelope.
Right. So we have sort of our oh shit moment, but we tell the truth, which is we don't really know anything.
Right.
And so we just kind of played it that way.
Uh-huh.
So you have Frank being suspended at this point and Walter Morgan's at the office. So for us, to me, I felt like not on thin ice, but sort of concerned of, okay, this is sort of a big deal that like
right.
This dude came out of nowhere and like, what if we want to stay here as the mail carrier when this game ends? Because through this too, we've had conversations with our parents and they're like, oh, I love Florida. I'm drinking margaritas. Like that's kind of their vibe mostly. And they're like, how do you like the job? Maybe we'll actually stay here. And so part of you is like, oh, this could be my job if I want it. What do I want? So that's kind of interesting.
And Frank, at that point, we're like, well, who is this guy really? Like, is this more nefarious than we think it is?
Mm-hmm.
But then I think later that night we talked to our dad about it. And he's like, oh, man, I love Frank. Like, Walter Morgan's always going after him. Like, you didn't give him up, did you? And I was like, oh, man, like, maybe we should have tried to defend Frank a little bit there. Yeah. And it kind of gives you, okay, your dad likes Frank. Yeah, if your dad likes him, then he must be a good dude. Yeah, he's probably cool. Maybe Walter Morgan sucks. We want to be quietly Team Frank. Yeah, quietly Team Frank. That is what it felt like there. Another big thing that happens, you get more bonding with Kay. One thing that's cool that happens is she impromptu calls you to ask you to babysit because she got unexpected tickets to go see Journey. Or no, she had tickets, but her babysitters fell through. And so she calls you last minute and is like, please, could you watch my kids? And you're like, yeah, go have fun, which I thought was great. So her and her husband go see Journey. You watch the kids. Unfortunately, you don't get to see what happens. You just hear about it, which I wish we could have done it because that would have been fun. But we mentioned that right afterwards. We're like, man, like it would have been really special to just like get to babysit her kid and like, because before they were like in our first interaction, Kay came out in like a spacesuit. And, like, just getting to see some of those hijinks would have been fun and kind of bonding or an emotional moment for our character. Yeah, I would have even taken like a 20-second cutscene. Right, exactly. Anything. I would have been happy. I feel like that would have been super nice. But the impact with Kay's relationship, super nice. Yeah. She's like so stoked that you did that. She's really grateful when you see her. She's happy. She starts getting into music again. Right. Because, she's like, oh, getting to see that. Like, I haven't been to a concert in so long. Because, like, I think her kid's probably like... COVID, right? The 80s COVID. Yeah. Oh, no. No, they're all gone. But her kid's like in elementary school or something. Like, she's probably not been able to go to like do concert things or things she would have done when she was younger for quite a while. And so this was like big, and she started playing music again. She even is like talking to you about it, like, hey, I like started playing this thing. I kind of want to share it with you, but I'm kind of nervous. And you're like, no, please, I would love to hear it. And you get to be like supportive. Mm-hmm. It's fun. Nice seeing that. One of the first days of this week, Angie tells you that your video boxes that you guys tried out didn't work out, and she's having to shut down the store. I think she tells you this on Monday and is like packing shit, like the store's not looking good. And then she's just gone. So come Tuesday, the store's locked, no one's there. We felt really hurt. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know. I was like, we had this great date and you just fucked off. Ghosted us. Yeah, I felt very ghosted. Yeah. And also that tension of... I'd feel obviously very ghosted now because you can access me. I have texting. There's apps, whatever. You can talk to me. In the 80s, it is different. Like leaving out in the door. Yeah, something. But yeah, we felt ghosted. We're like, what the hell? And we kept going back to the video store too to in subsequent days to like try and see if she's in there, see if there's anything to do. And she never was. So it was like, man, what the hell? Which I feel like got broken up with. Yeah. It felt like that too, because it was like you just don't hear anything. You're like, I know that like you have bigger things going on, like your video store not working is a thing,
But also, like, I thought we were vibing. And so it brings that, which was fun. And I think in that 80s environment made you think about those things too, which, you know, right, you could leave a note, but it's not like you can call me on my cell phone like you can now or something. But finally, I think on like Friday, you get a letter from her that's like, hey, sorry, I had to abruptly leave. I do want to see you before I officially move out of town. I've been like getting stuff ready to go. I know there's this big open mic at the diner on Saturday. I'll see you there. We can talk. And you're like, all right, cool. But also, like, I felt like, too, that her fucking off and being gone really threw a wrench in how we were playing this game because, you know, by the time after that date, especially once we, like, realized we blew it and thought we'd work and didn't, we were like, okay, we're Team Angie.
Yeah.
Like, we're in. And then she was just gone, and we were like, what do we do? We were, like, ready to be in.
Yeah.
And then it changed. So that was kind of funny how that worked. Robert is kind of our last big person that we spend time with this week. As we mentioned earlier, trying to stop the city council, we ramp that up. You help him with some radio announcements he does. You go to Jack, the farmer DJ's house, and help him record a message that's going to be like a commercial that Jack will play on his radio station. And, you know, it's like a call to, you know, call city council, boycott apartments being built on this forest, keep Providence Oaks beautiful kind of thing.
Right.
Like that's sort of his vibe, and you can give him feedback on it. And I think you being there as
Put some more revolution into it or something, she says.
Yeah. And I think being there for him, like, affirms your relationship. You're behind this cause, helping Providence Oaks together. And it's, I think, brings you close. There's celebration. You get dinner again to celebrate. And he, I think, opens up more here. Before, I think he was kind of mysterious, sad boy. And instead you find out that his wife didn't die or anything, which is good. But he did get divorced a few years ago, and I think he'd kind of put himself as, I'm going to be a lumberjack. I'm going to be alone because then no one can hurt me anymore. But then he meets you, and he's like, maybe I'm ready to get hurt again. kind of thing. Like, he's like, oh, I thought I'd given up on this, but maybe I would with you. So that's sort of your vibe with him.
And I think there was the option to hug him goodbye, and we're like, no, we're still on Team Angie, like, right before she, like, disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
We're like, no, we're Team Angie, so we're not going to hug him goodbye. And then...
Right, yeah, I think we just were like, see ya, or something, because we didn't want to, like, send mixed messages either on that. Right. We're like, we don't want him to think we're into him when we're not. Right. And also, like, we don't want Angie to...
and support his cause.
Yeah, exactly. And we don't want Angie, if she comes back, to be like, wait, you like him? We're like, no, we were into you. You just left for a few days and didn't say anything. So, okay. This all culminates. Our week of work is ending, and it culminates in open mic at Moe's at the diner.
The RV stuff.
Oh, shit. I didn't put anything in there. Okay. This is good. So, RV stuff. So... I can't believe I forgot them. So, okay. Some people that you deliver mail to through the course of your 2 weeks are this group of, or two people, a stoner couple in an RV who are out in the woods kind of.
Very mysterious at the beginning.
Yeah, and a little skeevy seeming, for sure. And you talk to them, and like you talk to the girl. To the girl, and she shares more than she should at times, and then you kind of hear the guy be like, "You're not supposed to say that," kind of thing. Yeah. And so you're like, "Are these people like murderers?"
Yeah, I'm like, I went really deep when I was thinking about it. I was like, is he like abusing her? Like she's a really nice girl, and like he's like, you're not supposed to be saying that, or like, are you sharing our life story? He's like kind of mean about it. And I was like, I don't know. I don't like what's going on here. It felt like.
Yeah, it's weird. And so like, there's parts of like, you know, are they like Breaking Bad? Are they like making meth? Right. Did they murder someone? Are they gonna murder me? There's like a part where they're like, hey, we're gonna like leave tomorrow. Do you want to come like do grass with us? Right. Yeah. Sort of feel. And you're like, no, I work for the government right now. I don't want to smoke weed with you. But then we had to go and hang out with him, which was weird. And he just had to like decline, like, oh no, I don't want any alcohol, or I don't want a joint. Because I was like, are they gonna like take our kidneys or something.
Right.
Like, I was just sketched out by them.
Yeah.
They ended up being, I would say, largely harmless. They may have stolen the RV because they end up...
Unclear.
Yeah, it's a little unclear, but it seems like maybe they did. But they're like, oh, we like borrowed it from someone, but we'll take care of it. And you're like, that's what people who steal things say. But they end up leaving the RV behind because his brother gives them like a ride into Canada or something. That also made it seem sketchy. Like, did you murder someone and you're leaving? Like,
right.
But
because we didn't even want to hang out with them, but the game kind of made us go hang out.
Made us do it, and they're like, well, the RV is a gift to you, and so you're like, I don't know if I want this stolen murder RV. And we felt kind of unsure about it, but
we ended up taking the RV.
We ended up taking it from them, and we decided to give it to... We
gave it to Tori, the mechanic girl.
Right, because we were like, well, it'll give you something to practice on. You like doing this stuff. And my thought was like, if we give it away and someone asks about it, it's not like a teenager is going to get in trouble for all of that stuff. And I think we could proclaim innocence in that too. Right. So again, this is where I was worried it was something deeper. But these people gave up enough sketchy vibes that I don't know. Again, didn't want like a murder plot to come down on me.
And I bet you listeners who have played through this game are probably just laughing at us right now, just being so like kind of not on edge, but like, you know, worried at different points in this game.
That's true. That's a good point. I imagine those of you who've played this, if you weren't...
That's why we gave the chill vibes disclaimer at the beginning.
Yeah.
This game really is chill.
Is chill vibes. If you didn't take anxiety or murder mystery into this, you probably didn't have the fears we did, and you probably were like, that's fine, whatever. But, you know, we interpreted things different ways sometimes.
So let's get back to the final night.
Yeah, so final night, though, that was good. I think that does cover all our big things through those 2 weeks. But yeah, they did remain unmentioned. So final night culminates right in this open mic. It begins with Jack doing some stand-up. He pokes fun at different people. Mm-hmm. It's kind of fun. And the last performance is going to be Kay. She'd been working on music this week after seeing Journey. You know, you'd gotten to support her but hadn't got to hear it. But we knew this was coming. And so for me, I was super stoked for this. I was like, I can't wait for this. And she performs, and it's pretty cool.
Well, before that...
we talked to Angie.
She comes up and she's like, I'm leaving town. Tori had given her the RV. Mm-hmm. And she's like, I'm leaving town. And will you go with me, right? She asks that right there. And
right before Kay's going to perform.
And you're like, let's talk about this later. Like, because we had decided, we're like, we are not leaving Kay again. Like,
yep.
We're going to support her, not disappear like Meredith had done 20 years prior.
Right, yeah. Angie's trying to have this conversation, like, Kay's on deck. She's about to perform. Yeah. And so we just are, like, non-committal. We're like, we want to see this performance because we can't, as you said, we can't ditch her. She's been so pumped about this. Like, we've got to support her. And even, I think, too, as we find through this game, like, life's been hard on her and at different points. And it's like, no, we want to really be here for our friend. And so we do that. Angie's conversation, it's kind of weird. And then she just leaves before the performance. Kay does her performance. It's pretty cool. She's got like it's like a keyboard poppy kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. It was fun. Also, the Lake soundtrack is on Spotify. So if you want to listen to it, go do it. I have a little bit. It's fun.
So the open mic night, before we get to move on, I felt like that was a really cool point in the story where, I don't know, it just felt like all of your interactions with the characters had really paid off. You had built this relationship with Kay and like got to support her and give her the confidence that she needed to like really come alive and really go for it again. And you got to like Mo gives Kay the diner at the end of that, and so you got to like just kind of see these like really big payoffs for the characters that you had spent like the last 2 weeks like learning to care about, and like you get to see all the other characters interact and like enjoy the stand-up comedy a little bit before that, and like just kind of I don't know, the world feels alive after that night, where the characters interact, and just really big character development payoffs here. So
Yep.
I'm a huge fan of that scene.
Yeah, me too. I think because of our culmination and then getting to it, I think my favorite part of the game, just because of how we got there, like
Right.
our relationship with Kay building, and then getting her to do something that she loves, like, and share it with
Right.
people. Really nice. This finally brings us to the next Monday morning after all of this, and we have the option of what we want to do. Our parents decided that they're going to rent a home in Florida, and they're going to be staying down there. And they say that if you want, you could potentially take on Dad's mail route and keep that as your job. You can stay in our house while we get this figured out. If you like it, if we like it, that's cool. That's available. Other options that you can do. So in the game, I guess, actually, there are 3 endings. I guess we'll say that. There are 3 endings. So you could stay in Providence Oak.
4.
Yeah, I guess some have some variations within them.
Right.
You can stay in Providence Oak, like we mentioned. Another thing you could do, potentially, is leave in the RV that you were gifted. Or you can head back to the city to your old life that you had working on your calendar thing. And each have their sort of leans towards them as to why you'd want to do them and their variations. So if you wanted to head back into the city, you do get calls from Steve that what you've made is going to be huge. He wants to give you a big salary. Like it's
10% of millions of dollars or something like that.
Yeah, it could be huge. And you can make a lot of money. Leaving in the RV, I think you can do this on your own. Or if you'd said yes to Angie at the diner, you two could head off together in the RV to figure out kind of what is for you.
Yeah.
Or you can stay in Providence Oaks and make this your place.
Right.
Also, within Providence Oaks, you could go Team Robert if you wanted as well. There's a part where you're driving the mail truck kind of to the office to tell Frank what you're going to do. And he flags you off the road and is like, I got to talk to you. And makes a proclamation of I found out I could love and
Right.
we should run off together and be Providence Oaks.
So that option actually presents itself if you decide to leave also.
Okay.
Frank takes you in the mail truck to the airport
Right.
to let you just be on your way, and then he runs Frank off the road.
That's right. So for us, I guess also percentages. Stay in Providence Oaks, according to Xbox's numbers. So
Yeah, Xbox is how many people got these achievements for the different endings.
Yeah, so for Xbox, when we played this, 40% of people stayed in Providence Oaks, 40% of people left in the RV, and then 20% of people headed back to the city to their old job. So that's how it sort of broke down for us. Why don't you tell us what we did and kind of
Sure.
your thought process in that?
Yeah, so flashback to the diner. We had told Angie that we'd like to talk about it later. We wanted to see Kay. Kay's performance had a real good feel-good moment there.
Mm-hmm.
Then right afterwards, Mo comes out and asks us what we're gonna do, kind of thing, and we're we kind of got a pretty good idea of what we're gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think right after that is that when we told Angie that it was that night that we told Angie we're we can't leave with you. And this is where I really had to kind of suspend game logic and put myself in Meredith's point of view. I'm would I run off with a person that I've only known 2 weeks and maybe hung out with her 5 hours total
Right.
in those 2 weeks? I'm and we actually tried to get her to stick around with us in Providence Oaks.
Mm-hmm.
But she had the wanderlust and wanted to go out and explore and get into some trouble, and we weren't for that. So that was kind of a sad moment. But then we had kind of decided that we weren't really Team Robert either. Like, we were on Team Angie, but she left.
Mm-hmm.
So then we go to the post office Monday morning, and we're wearing our jacket, and we're like, I'm gonna keep the jacket on for a little while longer. You know, we want to stay in Providence Oaks, and then we're out on we start our mail route and go out on it, and Robert kind of rides us off the road and gives us that big, like, hallmark, like, race to the airport, like, you know, last-ditch speech. And we're like, you know, like, hold up, buddy. Like, pump the brakes a little bit. Like, I'll call you. Like, there's a chance for this in the future, but, like, we don't have to rush into things kind of thing. Like,
yep.
So we ended up staying in Providence Oaks, but deciding that maybe there's a future with Robert, but we wanted to just decide that for ourselves in the coming time.
Yep. Yeah. And I feel like that, like, yeah, I felt like that's how I felt. I'm like, you know, if post-credits, you know, if we kept playing the game after this.
Right.
Like, I could see it working with Robert. I could also see it not. I think to me, like, how I felt choosing our ending was I'm really attracted to, like, Providence Oaks itself.
Right.
Awesome lake town. Being a mail carrier there would be dope. Like, if that was my job now, I would be all about it.
And we had spent that time investing in the community too.
Mm-hmm.
We helped Meredith with her cats, taking them back and forth to the vet, and we tried to help the video store survive, and, like, we did the photography challenge that we forgot to talk about.
Oh yeah, for
the general store.
Yeah,
and we helped whatever her name was. Just kind of practice her photography developing skills.
Yeah.
And we kind of just, like, invested ourselves into this community up to that point.
Yeah. So I felt super...
We saved a plot of land for becoming apartments.
Yeah. Yeah. It felt like, again, like Providence Oaks was home again. So I felt like that worked. And then I think with Kay, too. I think that our relationship being what it was, like... I wonder if, like, if our relationship wasn't good with Kay when her performance was coming to happen, maybe we would have just left with Angie then.
Right.
But because it wasn't, like, by that point, my relationship felt strongest with Kay out of anyone, even more than Angie, because Angie was gone for several days. So in that time, to me, I was like, I shifted in my mind, I think, from Team Angie as my love interest to Team Kay, which is kind of linked with Providence Oaks of this is what I'm into. And it was cool to get to go about that.
And Angie made us choose, like, our childhood town and supporting Kay versus leaving with her, and that didn't vibe with me super well either. Yeah,
that was too bad. I like Angie, and I feel like if other circumstances would have gone differently, I could have seen doing that. Like, if the video store never closed and she was there all 5 days, maybe we would have been like,
Yeah, if she didn't ghost us, then, like, maybe we wouldn't have had that sour taste in our mouths.
Right, yeah. If she wasn't gone those days and instead we're going to the video store and keep vibing, I could see it being like, fuck yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. Instead, you know, it went how it did. But, yeah, so that's sort of our ending. We asked people online what they did. Pre-order bonus on Twitter wrote in and said, I unlocked the runoff ending, so going with Angie, but I ended up doing the stay option instead. So choosing to stay in Providence Oaks, kind of want to replay to do the runoff ending. So I think ending up basically in a similar spot to us.
Yeah. And John on Twitter said, I ended up with the video store girl.
So going off with Angie, and then Christopher on Twitter wrote in and said, I got all three endings, but the first one was leaving Providence Oaks in the RV with Angie.
Yeah.
Makes sense. I imagine that I feel like leaving with Angie or what we did is probably more common. I bet Robert /
Well, you see that in the percentage of who got what achievement, too.
Yeah.
They're split down the middle with 40% roughly each.
Yeah.
Each route.
Yeah. Well, and then I think even like the Robert version of staying, I bet more people are like us versus like sticking with Robert. I bet Robert / going back to your old job, I bet those are more second place to the runoff with Angie or stay in Providence Oaks.
Right.
That would be my guess. I don't know, but I could see that. So, okay, that's Lake itself. Now on to kind of some general thoughts about the game that we haven't hit up, but would want to mention. One One thing I really like about this game is we've got a protagonist who's in her 40s. I think this is pretty cool. I don't know if I've ever played a game that's done that. You get women protagonists for sure at different points. Even that's less common, but like to get a woman in her 40s is, I would say, pretty rare. Maybe I don't know if I've ever seen that even. And with Meredith, what I really like is she's totally fine being uncool. So there's like times where she'll interact with people who are younger than her, and she's like, yeah, I don't know what that means. And she just fucking rolls with it. And I really like that. Like, she's totally assured and firm and comfortable in who she is and just interacts with the world with that in mind. And I really like that. As like a character, I really enjoyed kind of experiencing those things with her, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah, especially when she's like going over movies with Angie, and Angie's like, oh, what does she say? Like, you're so pure, like you're not a movie buff. Like, oh, she wants to see what you think about those things, and kind of go into it that way. That was pretty cute.
Yeah, that was so nice because Angie's like mega movie nerd, like wants to talk about like this director's like second movie, this thing, and Angie's like, and Meredith's like, I've watched movies before. Sure, let's talk about them, and like we'll respond and like watch things and be like, whoa, I've never seen something like this. Like, yeah, it's really nice. Meredith is very cool. Another thing we didn't mention, but I thought were pretty funny, was at the diner. There's a running gag of like you trying to get like the famous pie that's there, and each time you try to get it, something's wrong and you can't, and
the pie is a lie.
Yeah. Right, for real. And you'll talk to Mo, and Mo will be like yelling at the line cook in the back to help something, and there's always something going wrong, and you just hear them muffled in the back, like a Charlie Brown sort of thing almost, of like, yeah, you just hear them in the background like
smash. Yeah. Fire.
Yeah, it's so great. I thought that was an awesome running gag. So those were some things I liked that we didn't talk about, but what do you have that we haven't got to hit up?
Yeah, just some like general thoughts on more the mechanics of the game. I felt like the map system was maybe a little confusing, like at which address you were at, and like I felt like the icon was a little clingy. So you couldn't really tell like which address you were going towards at some points. Other than that, you mentioned fast travel and autopilot earlier in the podcast, and it's not really clear. It doesn't really tell you like which are autopilot destinations and which are fast travel locations. And the autopilot destinations, I felt like changed each route we had. So but those are some very small, just like critiques I had of the game. But it definitely appeals to the people who just want to like immerse themselves in this and like kind of treat it like a driving/walking sim.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do feel like there are multiple times where we'd walk to the wrong house. It was like we were supposed to deliver mail to the house 2 doors down, but we went to 1 door down or whatever, 3.
Right.
We're like, shit, it's the wrong house. And then we'd have to like walk, be like, oh, that's the one.
Yeah.
I definitely remember that. And I feel like there was like a fast travel point where like, oh, it's this building. This one's fast travel to get back to this side of town. But yeah, it did feel like it was a little uncertain. I'm glad the mechanic exists, but you're right. I think it was confusing in its application.
Yeah. And then another, just kind of like me looking back into the game afterwards, I wish there was a way to kind of speed through some of the mailing interactions, because I would like to replay this game, but I don't know if I could do the mailing routes all over again. So if there were a way to like skip through like the non-cutscene mailings, or just kind of like skip to any interaction we had, I think that would be a great way to get people to like replay the game and like search out those different branching endings and things like that.
Yeah, I like that idea. I think that would go far, because I felt like day one, right? Making you deliver every letter, even if it's inconsequential. Right. It makes sense. It's your job. You're immersed in your job. Doing it for all 10 days of work or whatever, after a while, it was kind of like, come on. It could feel that way. Or like you were like, please, a route with 5 letters instead.
Yeah.
Like you were really eager for them.
Yeah.
When, maybe only one or two of your letters resulted in an interaction. Most of them were just dropping shit off.
Yeah.
So I agree. I wish that they would have, at least in a new game plus quote unquote way, for going back.
Yeah.
If not, maybe after week 1, if you only had the interaction ones, it's like, cool, you get it. Every day you deliver mail everywhere, but we won't make you actually do all of it.
Yeah.
I wonder if being like such an indie game, like they had to do it the way they did it. Like maybe it would cut too much time out, but like
development hours and things like that.
Yeah, or something. I don't know. Yeah. But I feel like if I were perfecting this, I would add that mechanic. And if I'm getting to perfect things, I would add more like interactions you could have with people on each route. Even if there were people that didn't come up again. Like if you met one person once on a Tuesday and you delivered their mail. Like we had that creepy cabin we delivered mail to.
Yeah.
In the middle of nowhere.
Ended up being a writer. Right?
Yeah. I think you're right. We did it twice then. We met him the second time. Or because there was one where there was 2 creepy cabins. One was the writer guy who was a dick to us, and
the other one we delivered a chainsaw to and left
in the woods. And
we're just helping Michael Myers out or something.
Yeah, and it was weird. So like some of them were sort of fun like that, but there were a lot where you just put a letter at a box and no one was there, and that was it. And I wish that those mechanics were changed somewhat. If I were perfecting this game.
And I felt like the mundanity, is that a word? The mundane nature of dropping off the packages. I really just wanted to speed through and get to those like interactions with Kay or Angie or Robert.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that the like. I think there's a fine balance in that mechanic of like work's mundane and you have to do the mundane work things. But also it's a game and it needs to keep you coming back to that interaction. Like, I don't know, playing something like Animal Crossing, right? Like picking your fruit and doing the thing. And like it's all mundane, but it does, for whatever reason, keeps you coming back.
Right.
And I think I was more into picking fruit than necessarily dropping off all my letters.
Right.
That said, the reward from doing the fruit in Animal Crossing is less than when we got to meet someone and we had a good interaction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because when we had the interactions, it was like, all right, fuck yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
Even if it was something weird, like talking to the cat lady or something, like, that was good. That was good. You'd get the other side of it. But when you weren't getting that feedback, then it was just, man, I'm just dropping letters off.
Or the video game playing clerk at the motel.
Oh, God, that guy sucks. Yeah,
Yep.
That guy was the worst.
So I have to ask, who was your favorite character or who was your favorite side character? In Lake.
So favorite character that's not side is definitely Meredith. Meredith's great.
Yes.
I think she is a great character, and is maybe alone worth playing this game just for her, and like all of that. I think she's awesome.
Right.
As side characters, I really liked Angie. I think that like that, especially when things were really vibing with her, I really enjoyed those, and were like some of my favorite interactions when they were like just enjoying movies and like seeing them get to know each other and be excited about that. I really enjoyed that time. So I think that she'd probably be my favorite side character. What about for you?
Angie was very up there. But so if I had to give you my serious answer, I'd go with Kay. I just really liked kind of having to fight for that friendship.
Yep.
And really just deciding to rebuild that. And there were some like pretty tense moments that you kind of had to wade through. And I found it very realistic. That like, if me or you kind of went back to our hometowns after 20 years of ghosting somebody, like they would have very much the same response to us. Like we used to be super close and we drifted apart. And it sounds like there was some bad stuff on our end that we just, we like completely ignored her. She tried to talk to us, but we were able to just kind of be honest with her. Like, yeah, we messed up, but like we want to be your friend again, and like we're kind of here for the long haul. Like
Mm-hmm.
we were kind of starting to figure out at that point. So I found that to be very realistic, and the character development really paid off for me. So that was my serious answer. If I had to give you my kind of fun answer, I'd say the crazy cat lady. Like, she was just so funny. Feeding her cats cupcakes, and like you take her cat to a fisherman vet, and you deliver a teddy bear to her, and she's like, quit stooping in my mail or something, but you're like obviously holding a wrapped teddy bear. So like there's no way you don't know what it is.
Right.
Yeah, I thought she was hilarious and just
super funny.
Kind of reminded me of my grandmother, unfortunately.
That's great.
But I think you had your kind of fun character too, the former DJ.
Oh yeah, he'd definitely be my non-serious character or non-serious answer.
Right.
So fun. I just love that it's this dude who just somehow has the town radio station and like has like, I don't know, 5 songs and just plays those 5 songs because they're the ones he has, and just like it's just so funny, like such opposite career moves.
Did he end up adding Kay's song to his radio station at the end? I feel like he did.
I think he does, and you hear it when you're leaving town.
That's pretty great.
Which was awesome.
Yeah.
Again, like a good like Kay feel.
Kay.
Yeah, which was great.
Team K.
Oh yeah. I think if I didn't choose Angie, I think I would have chose Kay because of the same reasons you said. And she certainly became my favorite by the end of choosing that. Do you have any other things about Lake before we hit up some final listener feedback?
I think that's about it.
Hell yeah. Okay. We've got Christopher on Twitter who wrote in and said, I loved it. It was a nice little relaxing slice of life game. Felt like a Hallmark movie.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
Yes.
That was something you'd said when we were like early into playing it. As like, this feels like a Hallmark movie.
Yeah. Hallmark is all about like leaving the busy life and the career to like connect with people like in relational ways. So
yeah. It totally feels that way, and I would say in a good way. Like I know that like you like sometimes we'll watch like Hallmarky Christmas movies that totally have this vibe around the holidays, and this has that minus Christmas, but like that thing, and you're like, yeah, this is kind of nice. It's nice to not every game needs to be dark or heavy or any of those things, and so it was nice to have something that's another genre of that and play that, because a lot of the games I play aren't always on this end. Usually they're a little more heavy and stuff, and so it was nice to play something just pretty nice.
Lighter than expected.
Yeah, I know, right? Being because I play heavy games, we just anticipated it so much, as we said.
And John on Twitter says, I bought it when it came out. I thought it was an entertaining change of pace. I really had a hard time not Grand Theft Auto driving the mail truck. I can't agree with this enough. Mm-hmm. When I first started playing, I was like, I actually tried to hit people, and like I tried to run over signs and like just kind of stir some shit up in PO. But it kind of just like you hit something and nothing happens. You just have to back up, and like we even tried parking correctly one time outside of Angie's, and like we walked outside and there was like 5 cars backed up. So,
that's right.
That was kind of funny. When we used the autopilot, the auto drive, like the computer made some very bizarre turns and like swerved into oncoming traffic at several points, and that was like just kind of funny to watch.
Yeah.
That
was great.
I agree with John here.
Yeah, that was funny. I think too, while we were like GTA driving, we had characters comment on us being bad at driving.
You're right.
Which was funny, and we're like, I think this is the game's fault. So I like that. I thought that was silly. Ginger on Twitter wrote in and said, I wish that they let you deliver mail from the truck. Definitely.
Like a mail gun that shoots packages.
Even driving up to a lot of
t-shirt cannon.
I would be all about that. Anything that would have been nice if it were more
streamlined a little bit.
Yeah, like I know it's not exactly the same, but if it could have felt more like I don't know, I wouldn't want the time element, but like Simpsons Hit and Run or Crazy Taxi,
Yeah.
where it's like you drive to a point and it counts as it happening.
Yeah.
That would have been nice if it was just you drove in front of the house.
Super quick cutscene.
Yeah,
Like you get there to the destination, cutscenes to you dropping it off. Because like it felt like an eternity, us walking to the front door and then walking back to the truck. Eventually, like we discovered kind of the shortcut of like after you drop it off, you can go to the menu and then autopilot somewhere and it'll teleport you back to the truck.
Right. Yeah, we had to sort of hack it because it was
Yeah.
like all of it felt a little slower. So
Right.
I agree. Anything to make some of that a little smoother, I would be for sure.
And Alyssa on Twitter, all I can say is I like it a lot. And I think that Dan and I both share those sentiments. You know, we talk a little down on the driving mechanics and on the mundanity of it all, but I think that I actually really enjoyed the mundane nature of the game, and like Dan said, how it really like just kind of feels down to earth, and they want to tell a good story, and just kind of like draw you into PO.
Mm-hmm. Yep, totally agree. Spending time in PO, meeting the people there. Nice way to spend time. If you have Game Pass, you should totally play this.
Absolutely.
Even having heard us talk about it, I would still go see it for yourself. I think that it's enjoyable. Hopefully it ends up on other consoles so you can play it if you don't have an Xbox. But yeah, fun little Hallmark game, as people have said. I think that's all we've got on Lake. So we'll see you next time. If you'd like to talk to us on Twitter, my Twitter's at StoryEverPod. Our website's TheGreatestStoryEverPlayed.com. There we got a backlog of episodes, including Alan Wake, which Morgan was on before.
Yep.
If you want to rate and review on iTunes, you could do that. Our Patreon's patreon.com/TheGreatestStoryEverPlayed. There for as little as $1 per month. That gets you monthly bonus episodes we do, doing things like our favorite games from childhood, our favorite
beer you did one time.
Yeah, did my favorite beer, stuff like that. That's all there. If you want it, go check it out. And thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you next time.
And you can find me at Miscut Morgan on Twitter.
Thanks. Oh, also thanks for coming on.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah. All right. See you, everyone.
Bye, everybody.